Hi everyone, hopefully what's going to be a short video about the katana being used in the fashion of Iaido, striking from the scabbard. So I should start off by saying I have never done I've never done Iaido, however I have a number of very good friends who've done it for many years, formerly and currently, and also just over the years I've met many Iaido practitioners. And I've been at martial arts demonstrations where it's been done, and I've chatted to them and so on. And it's a very interesting art, and I have a lot of time, a lot of interest for it. But there are a couple of things I want to say, particularly in reference to some things that people say on the internet about striking from the sheath, sort of from the scabbard, but also in regards to European swordsmanship. So the first thing is that people seem to be under the impression that this is a purely Japanese thing. Yes it is and it isn't, okay? There doesn't seem to have been a developed, really complex martial practice of striking from having the weapon sheathed to being unsheathed outside of Japan, as far as I know. However, it was done in medieval Europe. So we have an example in Fiore de Liberi's treatise of 1410, Fiore di Battaglia, where he's attacked by someone with a dagger, presumably a sort of assassination or surprise attack in the street. And he's got his longsword in its scabbard, and he shows various ways that you can defend yourself and then kill or incapacitate the opponent, either using the scabbarded swords together as one object, or bringing them apart to defend with the scabbard and actually keeping the scabbard there whilst unsheathing the sword and attacking with the sword, and so on. Okay? And then if we look at Filippo Vardi's treatise in 1483, we see a similar thing where he's attacked and he actually draws the sword out of the scabbard really quickly and attacks straight with it from a sheathed position. So in actual fact there was something similar to Iai considered in medieval and Renaissance Europe, and it is mentioned in other treatises as well. It's mentioned in later treatises also, but I don't want to talk about that too much right now. Apart from just to say that it was considered outside of Japan. The main thing I want to talk about is the concept that, that the katana strike from sheathed is somehow quicker than a normal conventional attack. Okay? First of all, if you break this down, it does not make sense. A sword in its sheath, okay, has further to travel and has more to do than a sword which is out of its sheath. If it were quicker to attack someone from starting with your sword in the sheath, in its sash, in its belt, then nobody would ever bother to draw their sword before going into a fight or before just about to duel someone. Okay? Everybody would start with their swords and sheaths. But clearly, to draw the sword and attack, whilst you can do it very quickly in one smooth and quick motion, is never as quick as simply having your sword ready to fight with from the get-go. Okay, to use an American expression there. So, I have an issue when people say that the katana is really quick to attack with because of the because of the Iaido, and attacking from the sheath, attacking from the scabbard. And this doesn't make sense if you actually stop and think about it for a second. Because drawing and attacking is never going to be as quick as having your sword ready to start with and then just attacking. Okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is that if your sword is in the scabbard and you want to attack someone rather than defend, which is what is usually shown in Iaido, is when someone attacks you and you're not expecting it, of course your sword is in the scabbard, because you don't walk around carrying your sword in your hand. That would be very impolite, and very frowned upon by your friends. Okay, so if someone attacks you, of course you've got to do the best that you possibly can do from having the sword in the scabbard to start off with. However, if I want to attack someone, if I'm walking into a duel, if I'm going to fight someone, or I'm walking into battle and I want my sword at the ready, I'm not going to do it with the sword in the scabbard. It makes no sense. It's silly. The only reason I might walk up to someone to attack them with my sword still in its scabbard is if I'm trying to deceive or trick them and make it look like I'm not about to attack them. Okay? So, and this is, in European fencing and swordsmanship, what we would consider is moving into distance. And when you go from a distance where you can't hit someone, and you have to bridge this gap, you have to cover this distance, as I've talked about in previous videos, where you actually move into distance and attack. Okay? So if you're going to do that, you may as well have your sword out before you cross that distance, that danger zone where they can hit you. Otherwise, you're inherently disadvantaging yourself. Because remember that I said, to draw an attack is slower than simply to attack from a position where your sword is already in a position to attack straight from. Okay? So, if you're actually going to attack someone, you don't walk into distance with your sword in the scabbard. You get the sword out of the scabbard first. Okay? So there we go, that's essentially what I wanted to say, but I do want to finish off just by saying this is not bashing on Iaido because I have a lot of time for it, but what I think is that a lot of people who watch videos on YouTube of Japanese swordsmanship but don't actually practice Japanese swordsmanship have misunderstood what Iai actually is and what it's for, and it's primarily, as far as I'm aware, as far as I've ever been told, it's primarily for defence when you're not expecting to get into a fight. Okay? If you're expecting to get into a fight, you don't have your sword in your scabbard, you have it in your hand. Okay, thank you.